At precisely 5:47 a.m., as dawn breaks across the Persian Gulf's glassy waters, 6 Iranian MiG-29 Fulcrums descend through 3,000 feet and vector directly toward the USS Abraham Lincoln. No identification transponder, no communication on guard frequencies, no diplomatic warning routed through Swiss intermediaries. Just 6 Soviet-era interceptors accelerating toward a nuclear-powered American supercarrier at combat speed. Their pilots convinced that audacity and coordination would force Washington to reconsider its presence in waters Tehran considers sovereign territory. What those pilots could know was that they were about to collide with the most integrated naval defense architecture ever deployed to the Middle East. A floating fortress that had been tracking their takeoff from Bandar Abbas Air Base before their landing gear even retracted. The Abraham Lincoln represents more than American naval engineering. She embodies a strategic commitment that has defined Persian Gulf politics for 70 years, at $12.88 billion. This Nimsees-class carrier displaces 100,000 tons fully loaded and operates as a mobile airbase capable of projecting power across 700 nautical miles in any direction. Her 2 Westinghouse A4W nuclear reactors generate 550 megawatts continuously. Her crew of 5,500 personnel includes some of the most extensively trained military operators on Earth. Every sensor suite, every weapon system, every communication network aboard has been specifically calibrated for one operational environment above all others. It's going to find politically volatile waters where the Arabian Sea meets the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran's calculus for this morning's provocation wasn't mysterious. For months, American carrier groups had maintained persistent presence near Iranian territorial waters, conducting freedom of navigation operations that Iranian leadership characterized as illegal encroachment. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Navy had grown increasingly aggressive with fast attack craft and anti-ship missile demonstrations. Iranian state media has been saturating domestic audiences with rhetoric about American vulnerability and declining imperial power. Senior IRGC commanders needed to demonstrate tangible resistance to show their population and regional rivals that American carriers were uninvincible symbols, but potential targets that could be challenged. The 6 MiG-29s that morning represented calculated escalation designed to test American resolve, gather intelligence on defensive capabilities, and generate propaganda footage showing Iranian fighters dominating the skies above U.S. naval forces. First radar contact materialized on the Lincoln's A-Spy-1D system at 52 nautical miles, bearing 093 true. The response was instantaneous and overwhelming. Within 2.3 seconds, threat data cascaded across the strike group's network. The carrier's Combat Direction Center surged to battle stations. The cruiser USS Gettysburg's Aegis system automatically elevated to full tracking mode. 2 destroyers flanking the Lincoln pivoted their phased array radars to focus on the inbound contacts. Surface-to-air missile batteries transitioned from standby to ready status. Electronic warfare systems began passive collection of Iranian radar emissions. The entire strike group transformed from peacetime patrol configuration to combat-ready posture faster than those 6. MiG-29 pilots could complete their pre-attack checklist. The typical SPY-1D system tracked the 6 MiG-29's altitude, speed, heading, rate of descent, and projected intercept point within 8 seconds of initial detection. The computers predicted the Iranian formation would reach weapons release range in exactly 11 minutes and 43 seconds. That gave the Americans nearly 12 minutes to prepare for a carrier strike group trained to launch aircraft and engage threats within 60 seconds. 12 minutes felt like an eternity. The 6 Iranian MiG-29s held tight tactical spacing as they approached, maintaining combat spread across 8,000 feet of lateral distance. The classic Soviet doctrine attack profile that Russian instructors had drilled into generations of Middle Eastern pilots. They were flying low and fast, exploiting ground clutter from the Zagros Mountains to mask their approach, counting on surprise and compressed timelines to overwhelm American response protocols. What they fundamentally misunderstood was that surprise had ceased being tactically relevant the moment satellite reconnaissance observed pre-flight activity at Bandar Abbas 90 minutes earlier. Inside the carrier's Combat Direction Center, the tactical action officer's voice cut through the ambient noise with surgical precision. 6 hostile tracks bearing 093, range 48 miles, descending through Angels 12. O's hot toward mother. Recommend weapons-free posture and immediate alert launch. The air boss didn't hesitate. Launch the alert birds now. Dim red lighting illuminated tactical displays where radar returns appeared as crisp symbology, overlaying digital maps of the water space. No shouting, no confusion, just the measured cadence of professional warriors executing procedures they'd rehearsed hundreds of times. The clock showed 5:51 a.m. When the scramble order hit the flight deck, the response was explosive. Sailors in color-coded jerseys sprinted across non-skid coatings still damp with overnight condensation. 2 FA-180 Super Hornets already spotted on catapults rolled forward. The pilots already strapped in, engines already screaming at idle power. The flight deck officer hand signals flashed in the pre-dawn darkness. Deck crew yanked safety pins from weapons pylons. Ordnance teams confirmed AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles were armed and ready. The entire launch sequence that normally takes 4 minutes compressed into 90 seconds of controlled chaos. The first Super Hornet locked on to Catapult 1. The pilot running final systems checks, while 40 tons of thrust pushed against the holdback fitting. Every instrument showed green. The catapult officer crouched low, checked the deck was clear, then slashed his illuminated wand toward the bow. The pilot slammed throttles to full afterburner. The catapult officer stabbed the firing button. 3 seconds of brutal acceleration compressed the Super Hornet from standstill to 165 miles per hour across 310 feet of flight deck. The 4-Tannin fighter aircraft rocketed off the bow, afterburner exhaust painting the pre-dawn sky orange. The pilot immediately yanking into a climbing left turn toward the threat axis. 15 seconds later, the second Hornet screamed off Catapult 2 with identical violence. Call signs Python 1 and Python 2. Their orders crackled through helmet speakers with absolute clarity. Python flight. 6 bandits inbound, hot bearing 093 42 miles. Angels 10 and descending. Intercept and identify. Weapons tight unless fired upon. Rules of engagement are defensive, but you are cleared hot if threat criteria are met. Do not let them near the boat. Both pilots rogered up and lit afterburners, climbing through 15,000 feet at 450 knots. Their radars already sweeping the airspace ahead, hunting for the 6 Iranian fighters who had no idea they just triggered a response that could end their lives in the next 8 minutes. Simultaneously, aboard the cruiser USS Gettysburg, positioned 8,000 yards off the Lincoln's port quarter, the reaction was equally swift and infinitely more lethal. The ship's commanding officer stood in the Combat Information Center, watching his displays update in real time. Batteries released, weapons free on my command. Fire control technicians locked SM-2 missiles on all 6 Iranian tracks. The vertical launch system hummed as cells opened, ready to spit radar-guided missiles that could cross 50 miles in less than 90 seconds. Each SM-2 carried a 137-pound blast, fragmentation warhead with terminal guidance accurate enough to hit a specific section of aircraft fuselage. The Gettysburg could have killed all 6 MiG-29s before their pilots even acquired visual contact with the American carrier. The destroyers USS Stetham and USS Porter adjusted formation, tightening their defensive screen around the Lincoln. Their radars tracked the 6 inbound contacts while electronic warfare suites shifted from passive collection to active jamming. Preparation. Chaff launchers rotated to firing position. Close-in weapon systems powered up. Every sailor understood they were now operating in the narrow space between peace and combat. Python flight climbed through 20,000 feet and turned to intercept geometry. Their radars acquiring the Iranian formation at 68 nautical miles. The tactical displays showed the complete picture. 6 hostile tracks in combat spread. Closure rate exceeding 1,000 miles per hour combined. Time to merge, approximately 3.5 minutes. Python 1 keyed his radio. Python 2 targeting sorting. I'll take the northern 3-ship element. You take the southern copy. Sorted, both pilots flipped master arms switches to on. Weapons were live. Fingers rested on triggers. The 6 Iranian MiG-29s pressed inward, descending through 8,000 feet now. 38 miles from the Lincoln and closing fast. Their formation remained tight, suggesting coordinated attack tactics rather than individual harassment. They were committing fully to this approach, betting that American rules of engagement would prevent weapons release unless they actually fired first. They were about to learn that restraint doesn't mean hesitation. At 5:56 a.m., Python flight made visual contact. Tally 6 bandits, 11 o'clock low, Angels 8, 6 MiG-29s in loose combat spread. Twin tails distinctive against the pale sky. Iranian Air Force roundels visible on fuselages. No external ordnance on hardpoints. That meant nothing. These aircraft could carry R-27 and R-73 air-to-air missiles, KH-29 air-to surface missiles, even anti-ship ordnance if configured for strike missions. Python 1 didn't wait for the Iranians to close further. He immediately maneuvered to position advantage, climbing to 22,000 feet to gain altitude superiority, while his wingman stayed lower to bracket the threat. Classic 2-ship tactics. The 6 Iranian pilots soon found themselves not attacking, but reacting. Not hunting, but being hunted. The psychological tables had flipped within seconds. Python 1 has the lead bandit locked, targeting solution confirmed. His radar had achieved lock tone on the lead MiG-29. One button press and an AIM-111. 120 Amram would be scorching through the sky at Mach 4. The Iranian pilot almost certainly heard his radar warning receiver screaming, alerting him that he was being tracked by American fire control radar. Suddenly, aggressive attack profile becomes survival concern. The Iranian formation wavered, their tight tactical spacing loosened. 2 aircraft climbed, breaking the attack geometry. Another broke hard right, disrupting the coordinated approach. They were still approaching, still heading toward the Lincoln, but their cohesion had fractured. The Americans had seized initiative without firing a single shot, but the 6 MiG-29s didn't turn away. Not yet. They reformed and continued inbound. Now at 24 miles from the carrier, close enough that the Lincoln's Phalanx close-in weapon systems automatically acquired and began tracking. These autonomous guardians don't wait for human authorization in their final defense mode. 6 radar-guided 20mm Gatling guns rotated to track the 6 Iranian aircraft ready to unleash 4,500 rounds per minute of tungsten penetrators. The weapons status board showed 6 Phalanx systems locked and tracking, 6 green lights indicating ready to fire. What followed was 43 minutes of high-stakes aerial chess. The 6 Iranian MiG-29s split into 2 3-ship elements, executing a pincer maneuver designed to force the Americans to divide their defensive attention. 3 aircraft came in from the northeast at 8,000 feet, while 3 more approached from the east at 15,000 feet, creating a vertical split that complicated intercept geometry. Individual MiG-29s began breaking away for aggressive passes. One descended to 400 feet above wave tops, jet wash creating visible disturbance patterns across the water's surface, screaming toward the Lincoln's bow at 480 knots before pulling up hard at the last second, afterburners blazing. Another MiG-29 rolled inverted and dove toward the destroyer porter, leveling off at 600 feet and roaring across the ship's superstructure close enough that sailors on deck felt shock waves. A third climbed to 35,000 feet and established a lazy orbit, almost certainly gathering signals intelligence. The Americans responded to each provocation with measured escalation. Python flight shadowed every Iranian maneuver, maintaining firing position, keeping radar locks active, ensuring those 6 MiG-29 pilots heard their threat warning receivers screaming constantly. The psychological pressure was immense. Every Iranian pilot knew that American missiles could reach out and kill them at any moment. The most dangerous moment arrived at 6:14 a.m. One MiG-29 broke hard right and dove directly toward the Lincoln's Island superstructure, descending through 2,000 feet on what appeared to be an attack trajectory. The reaction was instantaneous and automatic. On the carrier's deck, the phalanx system locked on. In the Combat Direction Center, the weapons coordinator's hand moved to the weapons authorization panel. Python 1 called Bruiser. Bruiser on the radio, code word indicating hostile action imminent, and rolled inverted to begin a gun's attack run on the Iranian fighter. But this time the Iranian pilot didn't pull up. He continued his dive, descending through 500 feet, now 1,000 feet. The trajectory unmistakably threatening. Python 1's voice cracked over the radio. Bandit, continuing attack profile. Quest, weapons free. The tactical action officer had 2 seconds to make a decision that would reverberate across continents. Python 1, you are weapons free. Engage. Python 1's finger squeezed the trigger. A single AIM-1 120 AMRAAM dropped from his wing rail. Its infrared seeker locked onto the heat signature of the MiG-29's twin afterburners. The missile accelerated to Mach 2.5 in less than 3 seconds, covering the distance between the two aircraft in a blur of white smoke and supersonic velocity. The Iranian pilot almost certainly heard his radar warning receiver screaming, alerting him that he was being tracked by American fire control radar. Suddenly, aggressive attack profile becomes survival concern. The Sidewinder impacted the MiG-29's right engine nasal at 614 and 23 seconds. The 20.8 pounds annular blast fragmentation warhead detonated with devastating precision.